Hey there, I'm Mike, and welcome to my first tutorial. What I'm going to do is show an example of using a motion graphics template that was created custom in After Effects and then brought over to be used in Adobe Premiere via the Essential Graphics panel. Um, and I had a recent situation where I had a client that we were working on project motion graphics as well as editing, and he needed to have an element that he could very easily do himself at his place, where he could go ahead and essentially put in highlight graphics, words that might be on the screen, a couple of keywords, and at various places throughout his video. So I went ahead and I made a template up in Adobe After Effects that kind of mimicked the other look of our open that we did and our other lower third graphics and that type of thing. We made that similar, and then gave it to him to be able to work with. Also, the bar that I'm going to show isn't really necessarily exactly like our graphics were, because unfortunately some of those elements within that comp, particularly some color correction effects and adjustment layers and some blend modes and stuff like that, and didn't necessarily come over in the template. Apparently, not everything comes over in the template. There's a lot of limitations as far as, and then there's a lot of people have come up with some cool workarounds. But so there were limitations. But in order for us to be able to do it, we still were able to execute it. It just didn't look exactly like the original graphics were. But it was going to be fine for our purposes, so that it would expedite his part of the production. So anyway, what I'm going to do is just go into um, Window, Essential Graphics, call up the Essential Graphics panel here, and what you want to do is go ahead and install a motion graphics template. And I'm going to navigate to where I have right here, the one that I was working on. Load that into your system, and now it puts it down in the root right now. And what you want to do is go into your sequence, and I find that it's probably best to go ahead and just stick it at the back end of your sequence right now, so you don't accidentally go over anything. And then also, it's these things seem to think that it has audio associated with it, but it doesn't. But that audio track comes over every time. So what I do is I'll just essentially turn off my link selection and then just go ahead and delete that audio track, get rid of it, and then now I have just the video of the template. So what I'll want to do is, in terms of workflow, I will go ahead and first thing is shorten this to whatever it is I want. If it's going to be 4 seconds, I believe, thereabouts. 4 seconds, close to 4 seconds. Okay. So then I want to figure, well, how do I want this to come in? And how do I want it to go out? What am I going to do? Well, in this particular case, for this client, we went ahead and we added a wipe in. So you can go into your effects panel here and just search for wipe. Okay, wipe comes up. Got an edge wipe, so you just drop it right in the front of the clip. And I went ahead and I just did like a 20 frame wipe in. And then I usually put a dissolve at the back end of my graphics like that, supers and stuff. So I put a dissolve, and we'll do like a 10 frame dissolve at the back end. Okay. Now, in this particular case, there might be a photo. Right now, this is not a photo from the project we were working on, because it's just a photo that I shot at an air show. But what we might want to have a nice drop shadow to kind of offset that bar from the background, depending on if there's a person on screen or whatever the situation is. So it actually pops off pretty good right now, but what we'll do is we'll search for drop shadow and put the drop shadow over the clip. And also, while we're at it, because the client had wanted to be able to have these really be like 2 or 3 word highlights that would go at various places on the screen, depending on what the person is holding up or what's being shown on the screen. So we will want to put a crop on there. So I would search for crop, find the crop effect, drop it on the clip there. So now you have everything you pretty much need to work with. And let's see, what you want to do now is just go ahead and adjust that drop shadow while you got a chance. Okay, so double click on the clip, go in effect controls, and now you have your drop shadow, your crop. Now one thing to let you know, and I want to be able to, I'll show you the reason why this is a little bit later when we're actually doing it, but if you're going to use crop and drop shadow, you really need to make sure they're in the right order. Now I added my drop shadow first, and then I added my crop. Well, whatever way you end up doing it, you want to make sure that crop happens before the drop shadow. Okay, so that when you crop it, your drop shadow is applied at that point. Otherwise, I'll show you what ends up happening. But so make sure crop is in the top of the list, because the way it works with Premiere is all the effects happen essentially in this order from the top down. Okay, this is the order that things occur. So now that you have that in there, maybe you want to go ahead and adjust your drop shadow too while you're at it. Go ahead and maybe a little soft action or whatever, however it is that you want to do it to make it offset from the thing, kind of thing. Okay, so now that you have essentially it created, for this is the look that you want to have, okay, for each one. You know what the duration is. In this case, I've got 4 seconds. This client had wanted to have duration beyond for everything the same, because he's only going to have 2 or 3 keywords on there, as opposed to a long sentence. And we've got our in and out kind of thing. We've got a drop shadow on there. We got our crop ready to go. Okay, so now what you want to do is to expedite the process, to make it really quick. Go ahead, and I would do this in your workflow, is now go ahead and just create every instance that you want of the graphic. And the way you do that is you select a graphic, you hold down the Option key on Macintosh, and you go ahead and drag it over and let go, and now you've got a second instance of it. Okay, and I would do that with every single one that you want. Okay, say however many number of different instances of a bar that you want with text on it, and you just go ahead and do this, boom, 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 down the line. If you have interviews and you want to have it for name superbar or whatever, drill right on down the line like that. Okay, so they're all ready to go. Now what you want to do though is double click on your first one. You look in your Essential Graphics window, which has now become the edit part of Essential Graphics for that panel. And now you have, in this case, this template I've got set up so that we have our source text. This is a really basic, simple one, I know, but this is what it is. Highlight text goes right here. I had the ability to change the text color, but in this case, as time went on, we didn't even need to do that. It was in there. And then I made a thing that was for different variations of the bar, and if I drag through here, you can see there's this grit, this dirt that's on the bar changes as I go through the different. There's 3 different variations, 3 different positions, and then so the client could kind of mix up the look of the bar kind of thing. And then there was just a note that be sure to import this particular font into your system before you use the template, and you would put that font in and restart, use font book to install it, and then restart Premiere, and once you get back into it, it'll see the font. It'll work correctly with that font. So now what you do is you just simply double click on there, you go in that panel, the edit panel, and you go ahead and change your text. Okay, hit enter, and now it's updated. Okay, so now I want to go to my next bar. I double click on it, go to the edit panel, change the text again, Hit enter, now it changes again. And maybe I want a different variation of the bar. Okay, so I changed it, now the bar is different. Now I go to the third one, double click, go to the text, hit enter, and there it goes. And then maybe I want the third variation of the bar. Okay, so I changed that. Okay, so now that you got all the different versions, because now you see there's 1, 2, and 3. Now you're done with this panel for right now. So you can go back. This is where the client had wanted to crop each of these and position them on screen. And of course, you could leave the banner as is all the way across, or you could go ahead and crop them. He chose to crop them, so you double click on the clip, you go under Effect Controls, and now you've got your crop. So you can go ahead and just crop it up here. And this is what I was talking about. See how on the edge of the left edge of the bar, how it has that. It has the drop shadow kind of nice blends off there. Well, if you had originally your crop happening after the drop shadow, this is what ends up happening. Let me see if I can get it here, if I can move it in the right position. When the crop is happening after the drop shadow, it does what it says. It crops the drop shadow as well. And you don't want it to crop the drop shadow in this case, because it just looks sloppy. Okay, so you want to go ahead and make sure crop happens before drop shadow, and then all is good, because your crop happens and then the drop shadow sees the bar at that size, and it puts it in there appropriately. So there you go. And then, oops, you want to go ahead and do do your other side, and however it is you want to crop these, or however you cropped them, whatever. And then you can have the ability to, of course, change the position, wherever you want to put it there, kind of thing. And if you want to go based on safe title or action safe, use that as a guide as well. So now I got that position, and now I can go to my next one, double click it, go to Effects Controls. Now we go to our crop, and again, I mean, you can certainly do this, whatever way you like, of course. But I mean, workflow wise, I just found that this would seem to be quicker, doing things in this order, as opposed to doing everything for each individual one. But hey, if that works better for you, more power to you. That's all good. And then whatever other position that you'd want to have this one on, and then you do the same thing, right on down the line, and you've got them all taken care of. And of course, I would be a lot more careful as far as what my cropping is and that sort of thing normally, but just for the sake of this tutorial, I'm just going to kind of whip through here. But anyway, so there's stuff like that. Okay. And another thing I mentioned to the client too, if you had wanted to put, like, say you wanted to have to put a drift on when this thing comes on screen or something, or you wanted a soft edge on your, I'm not sure if that white might not give you a soft edge actually for that particular effect, but if you had wanted to put a move or something, say it moves over, maybe it drifts to the left or something, you could just put that keyframe in there, put it at the end here, and essentially just move it in that position. You probably have to see where you're going here first, and then have it drift a little bit. It's only over the course of 4 seconds though, so you don't want to go too far. But then again, that's something that if you wanted to have it always drift, and always drift for a particular duration and speed, that's another thing that you could set up initially when you're doing all this stuff. When you're determining the duration, you're determining the how it comes in, how it goes out, put your drop shadow, put your crop, go ahead and set keyframes for what would be a drift kind of thing, if you're going to do like a horizontal drift in this case. Because even if you made your different instances and you're like, you do it and you go, oh, you know what? Actually, I'd rather have it drift to the right instead of to the left. And say all your, since you copied it, all the different instances are now moving in one direction to the left. Well, hey, that's no problem, because all you got to do is just change that end keyframe, and now you make it go the other direction. Now you're probably getting out of action, save title kind of thing, but just so you can see how it works. Now it goes, it drifts in the other direction. So it makes it really cool to have everything kind of worked out in your mind initially for these things, and then all the pieces and parts are ready to go. The keyframes are there, and then it's just a matter of just changing it just a little bit if necessary, if you put a drift on it, that kind of thing. And then when it comes to rendering, you just go ahead and you can either select them all and hit render, and then take a short break depending on how many you have. But it actually does go pretty quickly to render. So if I render through here, each of these, this is of course doing all three of them here, so it's going a little bit slower, but it's like it will, it goes really quick. If you do them one at a time, boom, 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 it goes really quick. This is doing all three of them in this case, and it's still pretty fast because there really isn't much to this this template at all. So that's how it works. You can just do it, and let it go, and it comes on and goes. And I think because it's probably half res here, it's probably not really playing back perfectly for us. Plus, it's also doing it on recording, so it's not going to be perfectly smooth as we're recording the tutorial. But anyway, that's essentially how it works, and you should be set right there. That's it. How it goes. So hope you enjoyed this first tutorial, and if you have any questions, be sure and let me know, if that's even available to let me know. But hopefully I'll have another tutorial for you next time. Thanks very much.